separation of church and state, super important to this organization, super important to the country.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have put out a lot of information about that being violated in Utah.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the more interesting stories.
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now we're actually being sued by Brigham Young University, which
That's
is
quite an honor.
Owned,
up here, man. Awesome.
Thank you. It's super ironic because I grew up in Provo, Utah. I was a huge BYU football fan, right? And like my dad had season tickets from the time I was 5. We went to all the home games, so much fun. And then when I left the church, I had this internal ethical dilemma of whether or not I still support BYU football and all this stuff. And I was like, I could support the team, but not the church, and that's fine because BYU also has a really shady past in a lot of things. And then when they issued this lawsuit, and it's funny because I'll get into the details, but it's actually my name on the lawsuit. It says Ethan Dodge on behalf of Truth and Transparency Foundation, right? Wow. And that was my last straw. I was like, fine, nope, you're done. I don't support BYU football anymore.
You're dead to me now.
Yeah. So we're being sued by them, and to understand why, we need to go back to March of this year when we released a audio recording of a fairly high up, not super high up, leader. He was the president of what's called the MTC, the Missionary Training Center in Provo, Utah, where they send all their missionaries to learn the languages that they're going to be speaking on their missions and how to teach the gospel in those languages. And when I was there were probably about 2,000 to 3,000 missionaries there. This happened in 1984. I don't know how many missionaries were there at the time. I would imagine it was pretty similar though, maybe 1,500 to 2,000. And he was president of the MTC. And we released an audio recording of him admitting to sexually molesting women under his authority.
Wow.
Specifically, female missionaries at the MTC, right?
Did he just not know he was being recorded?
No, he did not, no. Okay. So this is the story.
Because sometimes men admit to sexually molesting women and they know they're being recorded.
Yeah.
So he was actually confronted by one of his survivors.
Wow.
And she originally posed as a reporter, or like a biographer of some sort, right? That was doing a book, and he was going to be part of the book. So she started asking him all these questions about his life, and then all of a sudden the tape is like 2 hours long, like a half hour into the tape. She changes gears and says, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she says like, you raped me in the MTC, right? Like, do you remember me? I am so and so.
Wow.
You took me into the basement of the MTC. You ripped my blouse as I was trying to get away from you. And you pulled up my skirt, and you didn't penetrate because you couldn't get an erection. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty gutsy.
She's badass.
Right? Oh my God.
He said he did not remember that particular instance, but he did remember her.
Oh God.
At the time when we released the tape, the woman was anonymous. She is now not anonymous. Her name is McKenna Denson. She is suing the church for this particular instance.
Good.
Anyway, to get to how we are being sued by BYU is she reported shortly after making that. She made that recording in December of 2017. Shortly after, or maybe shortly before, she reported that to BYU police because the MTC is under BYU police's jurisdiction.
So now on the recording, is he accused of it or did he admit to it?
Thank you. So
You're welcome.
Yeah, cliffhanger there. No, so he did not admit to raping her. He did admit to molesting other women throughout his life under his authority in various assignments in the church.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, including one female missionary that was in the MTC at the same time as McKenna Denson. What he says is that he was giving her a back rub and it got frisky. That's what he says in the tape, right? So
Because back rubs are always appropriate in that context.
in that, yeah. Power dynamics matter.
Yeah.
A lot.